The King's Avatar, Chapter 1683 Happy's Plans. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1683, Happy's Plans. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. Cloud piercer whirled around, bullets flying towards every critical point. Even under the effects from random firing and rapid firing, his aim was as precise as ever. Bullets. Chao Yifan didn't even see Cloud Piercer's gun aim towards him. He just saw him flash by him for an instant, and a bullet was flying towards 1-inch Ash. Just a bit off. Chao Yifan was somewhat unwilling to let the opportunity go, but there was nothing he could do. The cast time for ghost boundaries wasn't something that he could control. Dodge. He could only dodge. If he didn't dodge, he would be interrupted. But just when he dodged the bullet, he saw another one flying towards him. Zhou Zikai wasn't only focused on Chao Yifan. There hadn't been any pauses both times Zhou Zikai faced towards him, but his bullets went for him nonetheless. It wasn't just him, but An Wen Yi's little cold hands, Su Mucheng's dancing rain, Tang Ru's soft mist, Yishu's Lord Grim. The crowd went wild. This was what they had been hoping for. This was what made Zhou Zikai so captivating. Using godlike and human skill to sweep away everything in his path. Random firing and rapid firing. A normal player would have no way of aiming properly, but Zhou Zikai was able to guide each bullet to wherever he liked. 1-inch Ash's ghost boundary failed. Sun Shang and Wu Qi suddenly acquired a powerful shield of bullets. The two finally rushed out from the dark boundary, recovering their sight. They immediately set their eyes on Dancing Rain and Little Cold Hands. The situation had changed. However, there was one part that hadn't. Yishu's Lord Grim. Although Cloud Piercer's random firing and rapid firing had shot him full of bullet holes, it didn't stop him from using Colliding Stab. Zhou Zikai realized that something was wrong. With Cloud Piercer covering every member on Happy, he saw all of Happy's movements clearly. Su Mucheng and An Wen Yi looked like they were retreating. Tang Ru's soft mist seemed to be trying to force his way through the rain of bullets to Cloud Piercer's side. Chao Yifan's 1-inch Ash was behind him, dodging his bullets but unable to complete any of his spells. Their movements. Lord Grim? They were coordinating with Lord Grim. In other words, Zhang Boteo's empty waves was their true target. Too far. After realizing this point, Zhou Zikai came to the conclusion that the distance between empty waves and samsara was a problem. It might be a small one, and it was different from the coordinated assault from One Autumn Leaf and Cruel Silence. Samsara hadn't prepared for this change. Lord Grim's colliding stab had created it. Gunfire focused. The random and rapid firing hadn't ended. Zhou Zikai suddenly focused his efforts onto Lord Grim. A single bullet hitting had negligible hit stun. It wasn't enough to interrupt a skill cast, but when multiple bullets chained together in quick succession, the hit stun could no longer be ignored. Blood splattered into the air. Lord Grim's movements had clearly become slower, and Empty Waves was pulling away from the umbrella sword pressed against his chest. The dense gunfire was forcefully slowing down Colliding Stab, while also dealing quite a bit of damage to him. This sudden outburst created a new peak in energy from the crowd. The bright red blood was incomparable joy to the Samsara fans. But it was only for an instant. The wave of red blood stopped abruptly. Lord Grim was actually able to dodge the bullets. The viewers, the pro players, all of them felt their eyeballs fall out of their heads. What sort of inhuman skill was needed to be able to evade such dense and heavy gunfire? The control need was astonishing, and Lord Grim was moving quite fast too, making it even more inconceivable. Yishu didn't pause for everyone to ponder over it. After dodging to the side, Lord Grim used another skill. Falling Flower Palm. A palm flew out, striking Empty Waves and sending him flying backwards. Empty Waves had finally left the darkness boundary. Zhang Boteo could see again, but what he saw was his Empty Waves flying away from his team. Before he could get a read on the situation, Lord Grimm's myriad manifestations umbrella once again slammed into empty waves. Charge. Falling flower palm wasn't enough. Lord Grimm used charge, evading Cloud Piercer's pursuit, while also pushing empty waves even farther away. Happy's plan was already very clear at this point. Lord Grimm was doing whatever he could to bring empty waves away, separating him from the rest of Team Samsara. The normal viewers had yet to catch on. What they saw was Sun Shang and Wu Qi pressuring Sima Chang'an and Wen Yi. What they saw was Zhou Zekai's godlike shooting. What they saw was Fang Ming's laughing song casually walking out from the darkness boundary. Zhang Boteo's empty waves was being pushed back, but in their eyes, it was just a small flaw in the overall situation. Moreover, Happy had paid a significant price to achieve this. Lord Grimm had taken quite a bit of damage from Cloud Piercer's burst even with his unbelievably fast evasion. Even if he dodged, what could he do? The big stadium screen put on a slow-motion replay. It was only through this replay did people realize that Lord Grimm had used a skill to get away from the rain of bullets. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. He had used the speed from Xing Cut to escape. But this made Yishu's play even more terrifying. The window that he needed to do it in had been minuscule. It practically wasn't even a window, yet he was actually able to make it. Everyone sucked in a cold breath of air. Even the average viewer knew how terrifying such a feat was. To do it just to keep on attacking empty waves, was this small flaw really that small? From Yishu's choices and his determination, quite a few people began to realize that empty waves' situation might not be so simple. Everyone began to shift their attention to that end. Empty waves, Lord Grimm, a speeding bullets. Zhou Zekai's full attention was directed there. Besides him, no one could immediately step forward to obstruct Happy's plans. Sun Shang and Wu Qi had used their movement skills to get out of the darkness boundary. Then, in order to put pressure on Sima Chang'an and Wen Yi, they chased after them. From Empty Wave's position, the two of them were running away from him. Fang Ming's laughing song, who people thought would be Happy's main target, hadn't really been targeted at all. In the end, Laughing Song took his final step and made it out into the light. However, the first thing he saw was 1-inch Ash's blade, emanating with ghostly light, and chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1684. The Target to Shoot. Audio source, WuxiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1684. The Target to Shoot. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Interrupt. Fang Ming, whose first thought was to interrupt Xiao Yifan's cast. However, his laughing song was a cleric. He didn't have any skills that could instantly stop 1-inch Ash from completing his spell. 1-inch Ash was nearly done with the cast. When the Ghost God's power finished gathering, the Ghost boundary would be complete. Ghost. All Fang Minghua could do was warn his teammates. However, Sun Xiang and Wu Qi were both close-range characters, and were far away from him. Jiang Botao's Empty Waves was Happy's main focus. Empty Waves was even farther away. Even if Empty Waves had long-range skills, it wouldn't be enough. There was only Zhou Zekai and his Cloud Piercer. Zhou Zekai's full attention was on assisting Jiang Botao's Empty Waves. He hoped to stop Happy from reaching their goal. If he could help Jiang Botao win even the slightest opening, Jiang Botao would be able to get out. But he couldn't. Yishu had Lord Grimm dodge what attacks he could, and tank what attacks he couldn't. Also that he could continue with the plan. In short, Zhou Zekai had to keep his focus there. He need to keep trying. But at this moment, he received Fang Minghua's warning. Zhou Zekai was helpless. He could only have Cloud Piercer turn. He had to interrupt Xiao Yifan's 1-inch Ash. If not, the Ghost boundary would certainly prevent him from attacking Lord Grimm. Zhou Zekai acted swiftly. Cloudpiercer turned quickly, but no matter how fast he acted, it would still affect his pressure towards Lord Grimm. The ghost boundary was interrupted again. This time, let alone Josekai, even the pro players outside felt like they had swallowed a housefly. These ghost boundaries are too tricky. Even if they fail, they mess up Josekai's rhythm. It's extremely helpful for Yishu. If it were me, that would be the best I could do as well. Glory's #1 Phantom Demon, Li Xuan, didn't hide his admiration for Qiao Yivan. He was giving him praise in all regards. Stop sticking gold onto your own face. Have you noticed his positioning? Chu Yongshu added. The pro players immediately paid attention to 1-inch Ash's positioning. Li Xuan continued. Of course. He's positioned behind One Autumn Leaf and Cruel Silence. He's also lined up with Empty Waves and Cloudpiercer, using Cloudpiercer to block Empty Waves' sight of him. If Fang Minghua's laughing song had stepped out of the darkness boundary even a step later, the ice boundary would have likely succeeded. What if it were Crying Devil? Tyranny's Zhang Xinji suddenly said. Ah, that's the unfortunate part. Li Xuan nodded his head. His Crying Devil was the #1 Phantom Demon, and all Phantom Demon skills required cast times. As a result, cast speed was a top priority. His Crying Devil was one tier above Qiao Yifan's 1-inch Ash in terms of stats. If 1-inch Ash had been Crying Devil, Fang Minghua's warning would have been too late. The pro players only took a few seconds to discuss all this. However, Happy and Samsara hadn't stopped to wait for them. Numerous changes had happened in these few seconds. Samsara, who had been on the back foot the whole time, were in a much better situation than before now that the two darkness boundaries had disappeared. Even if none of Samsara's players had been inside the darkness boundaries, it still separated them from each other. Now that this forbidden zone vanished, Samsara could finally move around freely between the two sides. The first thing that Fang Minghua did was step into the previous forbidden area. In the blink of an eye, only Sun Xiang remained to put pressure on Sumo Chung and An Wenyi. Wu Qi's Cruel Silence had turned around and was moving towards Empty Waves. Because of Qiao Yifan's timely interference, Josekai wasn't able to suppress Yishu's Lord Grimm. Once Tang Ro's soft mist made her way over, it became impossible for Josekai's Cloudpiercer to hold them down alone. However, the darkness boundaries were gone. Fang Minghua's laughing song and Wu Qi's Cruel Silence rushed over, and in an instant, Samsara splitting apart earlier looked even more beautiful. The separated Empty Waves had been linked back together with the team. Happy opened the match with 2 darkness boundaries to trap 4 of Samsara's players. Their opening was undoubtedly in their favor. However, despite their spectacular start, the outcome wasn't as great as they would have liked. They hadn't been able to deal much damage while their opponents had been trapped by the darkness boundary. Their plan to separate Empty Waves seemed like it had failed after the 2 darkness boundaries disappeared. Had Happy played it badly? No one thought so. Starting from their pincer formation, Happy's tactics had been extremely effective. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Every player had performed their task outstandingly. However, Samsara's responses weren't inferior at all. They had been at an extreme disadvantage, yet they had minimized the losses. It was true that they had lost more health, but they didn't let Happy take control of the battle. Happy's crucial darkness boundaries had disappeared. Samsara began to actively take back the initiative. Josekai had been a huge reason that Samsara was able to keep things together during this period of time. Without his existence, without his strength, who knew how badly the situation would have spiraled out of control? Cloud Pierce's rapid firing was still active. However, the random firing skill duration had come to an end, reducing his firepower significantly. Samsara had finally stabilized the situation though. The next act was now beginning. But to everyone's surprise, Joe Zekai used dual load, instantly refreshing Cloud Pierce's random firing. He's going to keep it up? Everyone was astonished. The opening confrontation had been intense. Even though Happy wasn't able to establish an overwhelming lead, they were winning right now. Samsara's players were rather scattered about right now. It wasn't the best time to counterattack. Samsara didn't even have an immediate target to focus on. In any case, Joe Zekai had already started. Bullets rained down again on the battlefield, except this time, Joe Zekai no longer took care of everyone. He was unexpectedly aiming mainly towards Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash. As he fired, he even started moving towards 1-inch ash. Qiao Yifan was clearly Joe Zekai's target. There was Yi Xiu, who had beaten him in the 1v1. There was the all-star support, Su Mucheng. There was the best rookie, Tang Rou, who had just 1v3'd Samsara in the group arena. However, Joe Zekai's target was actually Qiao Yifan. Qiao Yifan hastily had 1-inch ash dodge and retreat, but Joe Zekai's Cloud Piercer wasn't letting up. When everyone looked again, at this rate, the two would be separated from the rest of their teams. Could it be? Box 1, Blue Rain's captain, Yu Wenzhou, said doubtfully. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1685. True. Box 1, Audio Source, WuShouWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1685. True. Box 1. Translator, No Yummy. Editor, No Yummy. Yu Wenzhou wasn't certain. As one of Glory's 4 master tacticians, there was no way he wouldn't recognize a common tactic when he saw one. It was just that Joe Zekai's focus towards Qiao Yifan didn't seem to fit the goals of a Box 1. The purpose of a Box 1 was to shut out the opposing team's most important player. Everyone recognized Qiao Yifan's capabilities. Happy's advantageous opening had required his darkness boundary. Yi Xiu separating Zhang Boteo from the rest of Samsara had been thanks to Qiao Yifan's interference towards Joe Zekai. He had been a crucial component in Happy's plans. But was Qiao Yifan's importance to Happy greater than Joe Zekai's importance to Samsara? In a Box 1, the core player rarely carried it out because you would lose your own most important player. It wouldn't be an effective play. If it were core versus core, then it was sort of understandable. But with Joe Zekai carrying out on the Box 1, didn't it seem like Samsara was the one losing out? Yu Wenzhou glanced towards Xiao Shichen. Xiao Shichen glanced towards Zhang Xinjie. The 3 master tacticians all looked at each other. In the end, no one was able to give a reason. But this was the way the match was going. Cloud Piercer chased after 1-inch ash. With random firing and rapid firing, Cloud Piercer had been able to cover all 5 players on the enemy team. Now, his focus was entirely on one target. Qiao Yifan had no way of fighting back. His only option was to run for his life. One ran, one chased. Qiao Yifan obviously didn't want to lose contact with his team, but with Joe Zekai chasing closely after him, just being able to dodge attacks was impressive enough already. How could he have the time to pick where he wanted to go? Is Joe Zekai planning on taking advantage of his class? Xiao Shichen suddenly thought of something and said, what was the advantage that sharpshooters had? As pro players, the answer was practically instinctive. Combined with the present situation, everyone instantly understood that Xiao Shichen must be talking about their range. Because Cloud Piercer was a long-ranged attacker, while he chased away Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash, he could still provide support to his other teammates. In other words, his Box 1 wasn't only to separate an important component in the opposing team's tactics, he was relying on his class's advantages to continue coordinating with his own team. Xiao Shichen also played beginner, so he figured it out a bit faster than Yu Wenzhou, Zhang Xinjie, and the other players. When everyone realized what he was saying and looked back at the match, they felt like that really was the answer. Once Chao Yifan's 1-inch ash was pushed far enough away, Cloud Piercer suddenly turned around and fired a few shots at Lord Grim in soft mist. For now, Zhou Zikai wasn't Samsara's cord, but he could still help the rest of his team. His attacks towards Lord Grim and soft mist hadn't been random. He was perfectly in sync with his team's tempo. With Wu Qi's cruel silence arrival and the assistance from Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer, Zhang Boteo was finally able to find an opportunity. Empty Waves used Earth Wave Slash. Mid-swing, he changed directions, turning it into a wave wheel slasher so that he could threaten both Lord Grim and Soft Mist. Although neither of the attacks landed, he was able to create an opening for himself. Retreat. Empty Waves immediately retreated. Lord Grim and Soft Mist were too close to him to the extent that even after Wu Qi's cruel silence joined in, Zhang Boteo still felt like he was in trouble. Spellblades need enough space to fully utilize their strengths. Although wave slashes were instant cast skills, their startup animation was slow compared to most other close-ranged skills. It was easy for Spellblades to get overwhelmed at very close distances. After taking a step back, his situation became much better. For a top player like Zhang Boteo, a distance of one step was like the difference between heaven and earth. Light Wave Slash. Empty Waves swung his sword as he retreated, using the Spellblade's fastest attack. Before, there hadn't been enough time for the attack to start up. But with a bit of distance between them, the attack would come out, and it would be too late for the other side to dodge. Light flashed, saying that the attack arrived in the blink of an eye would be an insult to the speed of the attack. A distance of one step was practically non-existent. As soon as Empty Wave swung his sword, the attack landed. This wasn't something that you could react to unless you had predicted it. As a result, Zhang Boteo didn't attack Lord Grim. In his eyes, Yushu was more likely to predict it, so he went for Tang Ru instead. Sure enough, Tang Ru wasn't able to dodge it. But just because she wasn't able to dodge it didn't mean that she hadn't done anything. Tang Ru had reacted. After dodging Empty Waves' Earth Wave Slash and seeing Empty Waves retreat, she had reacted. It was just that her reaction wasn't to dodge Empty Waves' following attack, but to immediately give chase. Soft Mist took a step forward. She stabbed with her spear, and the sword light arrived. Hit. The light wave slash left a bloody mark on Soft Mist. As for Zhang Boteo's Empty Waves, he had been hit by Soft Mist's spear and thrown into the air. Circle swing. It didn't matter which attack hit first. In any case, neither of them was able to interrupt the other. Soft Mist was hit by Light Wave Slash, and Empty Waves was hit by Circle Swing. Tang Ru's control over the skill wasn't affected. Empty Waves, who had just gotten away, was thrown back in the blink of an eye. Yishu's Lord Grim quickly followed. He wasn't in a hurry to attack. He positioned himself so that Empty Waves was pincered by Lord Grim and Soft Mist. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. Wu Qi, who had been ready to rescue Zhang Boteo, missed. Just like Zhang Boteo, he hadn't been ready for Tang Ru's sudden attack. Cruel Silence was very close to Empty Waves, but Lord Grim and Soft Mist were closer. Not only that, the two had Empty Waves pincered. Wu Qi couldn't directly charge in. Suddenly, a gunshot. Cloud Piercer's attack came again, forcing Yishu and Tang Ru turn their attention towards it. If the two dodged Cloud Piercer's attack, they would give up their positioning. Empty Waves was getting back onto his feet right when Cloud Piercer attacked. And with Yishu and Tang Ru distracted for a moment, Empty Waves was able to get back up. Sure enough, the pro players were certain now. Zhou Zikai was doing what they thought. Not only was he pinning down Xiao Yifan, he was also using his range to provide support to his team at crucial moments. Zhang Boteo had Empty Waves get up. Wu Qi didn't miss this opportunity for Cruel Silence to attack. Along with Cloud Piercer's support, the two on Samsara quickly switched positions. Empty Waves was finally protected behind Cruel Silence. As a result, Samsara was able to relieve the pressure on Zhang Boteo's Empty Waves. Yishu and Tang Ru originally had a firm grasp of the situation. However, Zhou Zekai's interference had broken it. Rather than saying it's a box one, it feels more like a star tactic, Xiao Shiqin said. Everyone nodded their heads. The true box one is on the other side, Zhang Xinjie suddenly said. Zhang Xinjie emphasized details. When he saw Zhou Zekai supporting Zhang Boteo and Wu Qi again and again, he immediately realized that something wasn't right. Yishu and Tang Ru weren't receiving any help at all. This was truly strange. Happy had one of Glory's best supports, Suma Chung. Her synergy with Yishu, and her synergy with battle mages were second to none. Her support towards Yishu and Tang Ru should be excellent. Yet where did she go? Everyone had been focused on the battle taking place on one side, but Zhang Xinjie had started paying attention to the other battle long ago. Suma Chung was being forced back by Sun Shang. But Zhang Xinjie wasn't someone who would jump to a conclusion, so he spent more time looking at the battle taking place there. Now, he was completely certain. This was the place where the true Box 1 was being carried out. Sun Shang vs. Suma Chung. One Autumn Leaf vs. Dancing Rain. Box 1, End Chapter.